Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to discuss and look back at the Cinderella album, Night Songs. This is one that you guys chose, and we were really excited to go back and look at it. Does this album stand the test of time for us? You'll hear our opinions, and we look forward to hearing yours. Alrighty, lots to cover in this episode. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. So let's jump in and let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I have with me my buddy, my comrade, already laughing and having a merry time. How you doing today, bloody?
The latest experience.
I like that. The latest experience.
You know, Jimi Hendrix did ask, "Are you experienced?"
Yes, he did.
I think you need to ask your, I was gonna say customers,
My audience.
your
Are you ready
audience,
to be a new experience?
a new experience. Yes,
Yes. Well,
I'm
you
doing
know,
well, but
yeah,
yes,
good,
yeah.
good. And we do have somewhat of a new experience today. I think this
Mm,
is the first time that I could think. I know in the past we put a vote out on my page and my social media to do what Kiss album. But this is the
mm.
first time we have a new experience for people where we chose five albums that were not Kiss albums. And we said we would let the viewers choose what
Like
album we
that.
take a look back, right? So I'm kind of excited over this. And of course, we chose the five albums that they could choose from.
Was it
But
five or
this,
was it three?
no, we actually went with five. I
Oh,
went
I thought
back.
it was three.
No,
So,
we discussed three
all
originally,
right.
but then we went with five.
So let me say these are the three I was aware of. It was a Tesla. Was it mechanical resonance?
Yes, that was one of them.
Uh, Doc and Tooth and Nail, and
Yes. Or as we would
what?
say, tooth and toenail.
Yeah. And as this episode is about, where I think they found out by now because they
Yes.
clicked on it, Cinderella Night Song. So what were the other two?
So the other two will Warrant, Dirty, Rotten, Filthy, Stinking Rich, and Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast.
Wow. And this one got chosen?
So this one not only got chosen, but got 40% of the vote.
It's pretty, yeah.
The next closest was Dokken and Iron Maiden, both had 19%. So Cinderella had double the amount of votes of anybody else. Does that surprise you? Let's just start there. Does that surprise
Yes,
you?
it does. It
Yeah,
does.
me too. In fact, when I looked back at the five artists, when I like 24 hours after I put it up, my first thought was, did I rig this? Is Iron Maiden going to win? Because the other four are all quote unquote hair metal bands. So they'll kind of almost like cancel each other out. And anybody who's not into hair metal, quote unquote, would just choose Iron Maiden.
Mm,
But no, Cinderella ran away with it. It wasn't even close.
mm,
I don't know. That surprised me quite a bit, actually.
mm. It does. Same here.
Yeah. And look, there's no denying if you look at those five bands, 2024 Iron Maiden has far and away the biggest fan base of the five artists,
Mm.
you know? But for some reason, people wanted to hear us talk about Cinderella Night Songs, and that's
Hey,
what we're
whatever
going
it
to do.
is, I'm happy to talk about it
Absolutely.
and stories to tell.
And stories to tell. Well, saying that, then do you remember
Do
the
you
first?
remember? Sorry.
Okay, anyway, do you remember the first time we saw Cinderella in concert? Yes, Mr. LaRusso, you have your hand up.
Yes, I
choose
do.
you.
We went to go see David Lee Roth on the Eat 'Em and Smile tour, and we went to Madison Square Garden, and we didn't really know of this band Cinderella, I don't believe at the time,
Right.
and we wound up going to see because they opened for them, and for David Lee Roth, and I think we were thoroughly thawed after the show, not only from the David Lee Roth experience, but we were pleasantly surprised on how how much we enjoyed the opening act, the opening band. It just I remember at the time saying, "All right, this band has got something,"
Mm.
had some catchy hooks. There was some definitely, and when you this song has 10 albums, 10 songs, so when it's an opening act, you're not quite getting 10 songs. You're usually getting around seven, right? So
Well, I
that
looked,
about fair?
they actually did 9 of the 10 songs that
Oh,
night.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's good. So what song didn't they do?
We'll talk about that when we go through the
Okay,
songs.
okay. So,
um,
but yes, I did
yeah.
remember, and pretty much I think like next day or day after that, next day, I went out to try to find the record, and I always do it.
Of course.
Where did I purchase this one? No hype sticker? No, no. Interesting. It doesn't even have the price on it, but it
Yeah.
is in the shrink wrap.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so this is my original copy. This is my favorite part of the show. It gets me all thawed.
Yes.
And it was interesting because, right away back then you open up, you're like, I was like, ooh, Kiss label, on
Yeah.
Mercury.
Yeah.
It's like,
Uh-huh.
Bon Jovi, yes, yes. We're all, happy about that because we like our family kind of be on this. It was so cool back in the day,
It
man. Miss
was.
those days.
Now, on the
Polygram
credits on the
Records.
back, does it, because like you said, Bon Jovi label, John Bon Jovi actually does background vocals on a couple of songs on the album. Is he credited on the back
Mhm.
cover? Is he? All right. I couldn't
Yes.
remember that. All right.
Thanks to our special guests.
Ooh.
All drum tracks, Jody Cortez,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll get into that a little bit. John Bon Jovi background vocals on Nothing for Nothing and In From the Outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I didn't remember off the top of my head that John was credited on the back. I knew for years now I've known he's on the album, but I didn't remember if he was credited or not. It's
Yeah.
interesting when you pull that album out, and obviously it's a little bit of sign of the times, but we know Cinderella ultimately went a little bit down, like a little bit of like the blues, if you will, that road. And you look
Well,
at that album cover and the pink logo and the back of it, bright pink, and it kind of doesn't fit with where Cinderella went as an
no,
artist to me, you know?
absolutely. And it's so funny because every time I would look at this picture, I always felt like Tom Kiefer was missing a leg. Like with that scarf hanging down.
Oh, that's so
I was
funny.
like,
I never
you
thought of
never,
that.
it always, even as a kid, like he still can't see his foot. I know it's a little
Uh-huh.
blurry. So,
Yeah,
but, but these were great times, man.
they were.
It
They were.
really was. And,
And I remember reading something that Tom Kiefer is wearing like some kind of pin on his jacket, I think, and on that front cover somewhere or on his pants. And he recently gave it to Lizzie Hale of Hailstorm, and she wore it on an album cover of theirs now.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what? People don't realize that Tom Kiefer really invented the duck face.
That's not a good picture. I have to wonder what made them say that would be the picture to use
Tom,
in the back. Oh man. Well, it's funny because I don't really totally remember. I remember the David Lee Roth concert very well. I don't remember Cinderella from that night, but I clearly must have become a fan right around that time because fast forward 6 months later, we saw Bon Jovi with Cinderella opening, and I
mhm.
recorded the Cinderella show, not just the Bon Jovi
Well, I
show. So
think I think I probably bought the record before you did this record
probably,
because you
probably,
know me,
but certainly by
infamous.
April of '87, which is when we saw Bon Jovi and Cinderella, clearly I was a fan because I would not have been utilizing one of my cassette tapes
Yeah,
on
right,
recording Cinderella if I wasn't a fan.
right, yeah.
So I came a fan at that time, but I don't really remember that. I remember the David Lee Roth show. I remember seeing David Lee Roth. I don't really remember Cinderella. What the hell is going on over there?
I got a mosquito in here.
Oh, I
He's
thought
trying
maybe
to
it was a
escape.
George
George.
McFly.
Oh, did there? Yeah.
Uh,
Anyways,
so
sorry.
yeah, but clearly both of us were Cinderella fans going back to the first album and back in that fall of '86 time period. So when the fans chose this one, I was kind of excited because quite honestly, I had not listened to the album front to back in many years. While I knew every song on the album, I was able to sing along to every song on the album. I've heard individual songs from the album many times over the years, but I had not listened side one, song one to side two, song five, I guess, or 10,
Mm,
depending on how you want to count it,
mm.
in many years. So it was kind of fun to kind of go through and I'll say do that homework like we like to do beforehand. I'm assuming you gave a few listens front to back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And some of the songs, you know, once I heard them, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. But I hadn't literally listened to this record probably since the '80s, from top to bottom.
Right. Right.
Um,
Which is interesting because, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end, but I remember growing up, to me, you were maybe a little bit more of a Cinderella fan than I was. Not that I wasn't a fan,
a lot more.
but you
I would say
were
a lot
the
more.
Great Whites and the Cinderellas, like that. That was the avenue you went down, whereas I went to the more polished and poppy type rock, right? So you were a bigger fan than I was in the '80s, I think.
Absolutely. And I'll talk a little further about that next album, the album after that,
Yeah.
Cinderella. But yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Um,
Alrighty. Well,
well, a little back
do you have
history
any
too.
other stuff that you want to mention about the album
Yeah.
before we talk about the songs?
Well, it should be because one thing, uh, Andy Johns, who produced this record, you know, who's the brother of Glyn Johns. And if you watched any of the Beatles Get Back documentary, you
Yep.
see Glyn Johns is all over that as an engineer who was, you know, goes without saying his contribution and to other bands. But just looking at the albums that, so what I wanted to say was that, you know, they label brought in a producer, whether they brought him in or I don't know if Cinderella had that kind of, you know, pull to say we want to get Andy Johns as the producer. And, you know, I'll just give you some of the artists and some of the albums that this man worked on. Led Zeppelin 2, obviously Led Zeppelin, Humble Pie, which if you never listened to Humble Pie, you really should. I'm just telling you and your audience.
Hmm.
Jethro Tull, Eric Clapton, Free, the Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers engineered that record, which is one of my favorite records of all time. Exile on Main Street, another great. Those are considered the 1-2 punch. Rolling Stones. More Led Zeppelin. House of the Holy. It's Only Rock and Roll. Rod Stewart, Eddie Money, Joni Mitchell, Ron Wood. You know, I mean, these are.
I think I've heard
I
of
mean,
one or two of those artists.
yeah, I mean, and these are like their top albums. He either produced or engineered or
Right.
both. So the fact that they brought in this guy, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking of the guys in the band being like, okay, shit, you know, this guy heard, you know, Brown Sugar recorded live in the studio. This guy's
Right.
heard, you know, whatever, you know, it's anything from Led Zeppelin 3 or Led Zeppelin 4. This guy was he was the engineer, you know, for Stairway to Heaven. Come on.
Right.
It doesn't get any bigger than that.
No,
You
it doesn't.
maybe arguably one of the greatest songs of all time, you know. Got to be totally exciting experience for them. And also the fact that the original drummer was actually fired before actually he couldn't do the sessions from what I read, um, and so they brought in this Jody Cortez.
Hmm.
So Fred Corey was kind of hired after that,
Right.
and it's kind of ironic because, you know, as we come to find, it took like the third album for Fred Corey to finally be allowed to record on a record. So
Sure.
I mean, that'd be very tough for him. But I
And,
just
and,
want to
he,
give
and
a
even
little.
on guitar, Jeff LaBar is not the one doing all the solos on the album either.
Well, as it came to, you know, it wasn't very typical of a lead singer back in the day of any band to be the kind of the better, quote unquote, lead player. And it was kind of like Tom Kiefer is more of the primary as it came to, you know, yeah, if you hear the solo on, I think there might be a split solo on Nobody's Fool, but I know like don't know what you got till it's gone, which is one of my favorite guitar solos.
Hmm.
It's all Tom Kiefer, and he had a really good sense of melody and a good, you know, I love his guitar playing, you know, not just for writing. And I'll get into some of that as we go along this album.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's not a typical thing that you see the lead singer
Right.
also lead guitar player when they have, you know, a lead guitarist in the band, you
Yes.
know.
Yep. Yep. And if
So
you remember in the '80s, I mean, you're talking about Tom Kiefer's role in the band, right? Obviously, he's the one credited as the sole songwriter of all 10
mm-hmm,
songs on this album. And if you remember, we used to, when we would look at the credits on albums after this, if there was one person that basically wrote most or all of the songs, we'd always say in the '80s,
mm-hmm.
oh, they're pulling a Tom Kiefer, right? So, because it
Yeah,
was just like, I often wonder sometimes, was Tom signed to a record contract with Mercury and not the band Cinderella,
possibly.
right?
I don't know that, you know, the whole history of
I don't
Cinderella.
know it either. If anybody
I
watching or
kind of
listening knows,
I kind of
I suspect that's probably the case.
I thought Eric might have been with him for a while, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, no, I think Eric was with him at that point. but it's not unheard of for
It's formed in 83.
formed in 83
Early
with,
three, 83, 80 to 85. It was Tom Kiefer and Eric Brittingham. Yeah. So
okay.
I did kind of keep that in my P brain.
Doesn't mean though that that's who gets the record contract.
No, no, I know. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like when Vinnie Vincent got really the record contract and
Right.
they brought in what's the original singer?
Robert Fleischman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Right. But Vinny was the one that had the contract. And I just wonder, I suspect that Tom Kiefer was signed to the contract and then created the band, brought the band members with him that he wanted. That's just my
mm.
gut feeling. I don't know
So
that for sure.
so just so you know, and just to
Yeah.
lead into this album, it says Tom Kiefer stated that Kiss guitarist Gene Simmons first took interest in the band and tried to get them a deal with Polygram, but they were not interested. John Bon Jovi saw them perform at the Empire Rock Club in Philadelphia and talked to his A&R man, Derek Schulman, about seeing the group. Schulman was not convinced at first either and wanted to sign the band to a 6-month development deal. After extensive negotiations, he finally signed the band. So this didn't sound like this was like, a shoo-in, even if you know
Right.
Gene or if you know John Bon Jovi.
And in fairness to, I'll say the labels for a moment there, in the 80s, Kiss was a little bit of, I don't want to say has-beens, but they were certainly not what they were in the 70s, right?
Right.
And when John Bon Jovi is making the recommendation for Cinderella, this is before Slippery When Wet takes off. So John Bon Jovi is not the John Bon Jovi that we've known for the last 40 years, right? He's had 2 albums under his belt with moderate success only.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm quite sure if John had gone to the label in 88 or 89, they would have listened a lot more than in 85.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that.
Yep.
And this did sell 3 million copies, this album, which I'm shocked at that. I mean,
Yep.
that's a lot.
I
know a lot. I know Metal was really popular and it might have sold even more so when their second album, which is actually, I think, more successful as from a hit standpoint. And that did help, but I wouldn't have thought 3 million.
Yeah, I was surprised when I did my research on this also. And especially when you think of, I mean, I know Nobody's Fool was a radio, top 40 radio hit, but it's not like it was a #1 hit. It was like 18, 19, 20. I think somewhere it peaked around there. Shake Me was not a huge radio. Again, I'm talking top 40, not rock radio. Somebody Save Me. In other words, the singles on the album didn't rip up the charts where, you could say they were selling all these albums to people who were just casual rock fans. 3 million's impressive, but they opened up for Bon Jovi on the Slippery When Wet tour, which was at that time the biggest band in the world. I'm quite sure a lot of Bon Jovi fans went home the way we did after seeing them with David Lee Roth and said, "Ooh, I like that band. I'm going to go buy that album."
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other factoids you want to give us about the record or Cinderella before we jump
just
in?
fast forward a little bit. The second album also sold 3 million copies. Long
Okay.
Winter, which is interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Let's start.
All righty. I'm going to let you go first then. Side A, song #1, the title track, Night Songs. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so there's a lot of I want to like about the song, but it's kind of draggy, it's kind of like it's got a good hook. I like the just thinking sometimes I like the verses better than choruses on some songs in general. I think I'm going to give it a little bit more points because it's the title track. I'll be honest.
Okay.
But I give the song a 5.3. I think it's just a little bit above average song. It's when I listened to it, I was like, "Ooh, first song," and then I listened to it, I'm like, okay. As to quote you, a little boring.
A little boring. Yes.
A little boring. A little boring.
So I purposely let you go first here because, again, we don't talk about this beforehand. I don't know where we're going to go with our ratings. We always say 5 is average, 7 and above is where you start to get to the upper echelon songs. And I knew you were a bigger Cinderella fan than I was. So I'm like, all right, where is he going to go to start off this album? Because I play it and the first song, I'm like, why did they choose this one to open up the album?
Yeah,
Besides the fact that it's the title track, right?
Yeah.
It's not a great album opener, in my opinion. It's not a good song, really. It plods along. It is boring, like you just said. I
Yeah,
don't really like the chorus. Night songs, cheap songs is what I keep
yeah,
singing when I hear the
yeah.
song. Um, I'm going to say I'm not even really a fan of this song at all. So I'm going to go with a 4 on this one. I'm just
Okay.
not a
And
fan at all.
well, as I said, I gave it probably a little bit
Yeah.
elevated score. I just think it's an average song. I gave it a 5.3 because it's the title track.
Hmm.
You know, but I agree, it was not a good way to start the record.
Yeah, it's
You know,
they've got easily 15, 20 songs across their catalog that are much better than this, much better. This
yeah.
is not the way to introduce people to the band, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
I need a shot of gasoline. I need a shot of gasoline after listening to this song
Yeah,
because cheap.
yeah, yeah,
Just, all righty. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Not a
yeah,
fan of that song. You got my
yeah,
4 down, right?
yeah.
All righty. All right. Shake me. Go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, so now this is where it starts pumping up a little bit.
Yeah.
This is a great title. I mean, the great opening track to kickstart an album.
Yep.
It's got I love the verse progression. Um, it's got a great chorus. It's just like this is the bread and butter of Cinderella, like I like to call it. I gave this a 7.5. This song, it's a very strong. It's an upper echelon song. Not up, but 7.5 is a pretty damn good rating if we're starting with 7. I love the way this song. I never get tired of hearing it. I still think it's a great song.
Yep.
And
Yeah, look,
and
to me, it was a perfect first single for them to choose from the album.
yeah,
It really,
yeah,
I say, kind of brings home what this album is about to me and very
mm.
well. I love the cowbell going through the song. I'm shocked that you didn't mention the cowbell.
Well, we'll leave that to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny because as I'm listening to the song, which I knew back and forth, obviously, I've heard the song hundreds of times in my life, if not thousands. Um, I'm like, wow, I never really made the connection how much Kix ripped off Cinderella with their song Get It While It's Hot. To me, I'm like, this is the same song, just 2 years
Mm,
later, written by Kix. And I like that song. I think Shake Me maybe just a smidge better, but to me, it almost felt like the same song. I'm like, wow, I never
mm.
really made that connection before. And I love both songs, but I went with a 7.5 on this as well.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. All
Okay.
righty. The big ballad.
Mm,
Nobody's fool.
mm.
Maybe I'll start off on this one here.
Go ahead,
You know,
Ballad Boy.
I yes. So we just did the episode about Alice Cooper, right? If you haven't watched that, go check that out. And I know on that episode I mentioned in the 80s I was Ballad Boy, right? Because I rated some of the Alice Cooper ballads a little lower than normal, but I said normally I love ballads. Nobody's Fool is what I'm talking about, right? This is the
Mm,
type of ballad I love. I love the guitar solo that's in this song. I think is really good. I love that whole introduction. I'll call it guitar riff. It's not really a riff, like the whole like ding ding ding. Like it's just something about that. Like it's haunting to me. It's good. Like musically, the music fits the lyrics. It's just such a good song. I'm going with an 8.5 on this one.
yeah, yeah. It's got a great vocal on this.
Yes.
He starts out in kind of like his normal voice.
Hmm.
And it's time you realize. Like when he
Yep.
goes into that, it's awesome. It's a great chorus, great guitar solo, as you said. And after the guitar solo, and he's like, "I'm not your fool." Like
Hmm.
it's just so strong. Um, and then nobody's fools, and
Yep.
it's got that end guitar solo. It's just a great, such a well done, well written song. I gave it a 9. This song,
Yep. Yeah. I went back and forth, 8.5, 9. At one point, I had an 8.8 on my page.
yeah,
And I kept going back to Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone. And I was
mm-hmm.
comparing, I'm like, for my money, Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone is a better song.
Mm-hmm.
And I just always went back in that mind. But look, there's nothing wrong with an 8.5 here. But I think I could understand your 9.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention what I texted you yesterday when I went to give my newest listen to the album and I stumble on the sped up version of Nobody's Fool. So if you haven't
Why?
heard this, people watching and listening, go check it out. This is an officially released, right? Is on iTunes or whatever it's called these days.
Or
Um,
any music service, it's
right,
there.
or probably any music service. And it's literally it's Nobody's Fool sped up version by Cinderella. And the music starts and it's a little sped up, and I'm like, okay, and it's going to be interesting what the vocal sounds like, and it's a freaking like chipmunk sound, and I'm like, why? It takes away the whole feel of the song. I, for the life of me, can't figure out what the hell anybody was thinking releasing this thing, but fascinating is the only word that comes to mind. It's fascinating, bizarre.
It is bizarre. It is bizarre.
Yeah, yeah.
I tried
So
to figure it out too, and I'm just like, all right, this who would want to listen to this, and for what reason?
yeah, for what reason? Other than you just getting more streams and more listens because, like a fool, I clicked on it because it said sped up, and you listen to it, and I guarantee there's going to be people that now go listen to it because we bring it up. So,
But then listen to the original to compare.
of
Yeah,
course, yes, yes. All righty. Next song on the record, Nothing for Nothing. Go ahead, my friend.
yeah, it's got a cool groove. It's I like the feel of this one. This is another song. Not another song. This is gonna be a song that maybe I would rate it a little higher, but again, doesn't thrill me. I gave this a 5.7.
Okay.
I think it's a good tune, a bit above average.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I think this song on the entire album is the one that aged the best for me. And by
mm-hmm,
that, I mean not that it's the best song on the album, but I don't remember really liking this song in the 80s, even though I certainly I know it. Um, but as I listen to it more and more, I'm like, this I think has maybe my favorite moment on the album, which is I'll call it like the pre-chorus where Tom is singing, you're talking words, but they don't make a rhyme. And I'm not singing the words, I'm just saying them right now. Right. I that whole pre-chorus is maybe my favorite part of this whole album. The
mm,
song itself is good. It's definitely not great. But there's
mm-hmm.
something about it that I like more than I did 30, 40 years ago. So saying that, again, it's not an upper echelon song. It's not great. I went with a 6 on this.
Okay. All right.
All righty. Next up is the last song on the first side, Once Around the Ride. I'll start off here this time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a song now, if I think back to the 80s, this is a song I always loved, right? This is a song they used to open up their shows with. We were talking about going to see them in the 80s. Obviously, a straightforward rock song to me. It's a fun song. I still like it, still stood the test of time to me. I'm going with a 6.5 on this one.
The last one you did was a 6, right?
A 6, yes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I kind of feel like that's one half dozen of the other with these two songs. Once Around the Ride, I gave it slightly lower. It's a 5.5 as a 5.7. Not a bad song.
No.
It's got a cool chorus. There's elements of this that I really like. But yeah, I mean, it's just a bit above average for me.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can understand that. All righty. That's side A of the record. We're going to
Mm.
flip it over. We're going to go to side B. We're going to start with Hell on
Hell on
Wheels.
Wheels.
Go ahead, my friend. Hell on Wheels. What are you thinking?
This I'm saying, I keep saying it again when I did say again. This is an average tune to me. I mean, not bad. Got hell on wheels. Got hell on wheels. Hell on. It's like it's not a great chorus to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not horrible, but it's just there's nothing. Nothing puts me off on any of the songs that But it's just, and I think the song is an average song at 5.
I'm actually laughing and smiling to myself, maybe more than viewers could realize, because we said before how much you were a bigger Cinderella fan than
Mm-hmm.
I was in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't, we never talked about our ratings beforehand. I was like, all right, you're going to come on, you're going to give every song on this album a 7 or better because you love Cinderella. And I'm going to be challenging you on this because some of these songs are not great songs.
Mm-hmm.
Hell on Wheels being one of them. For
Mm-hmm.
me, you said it perfect. The song is the words I wrote down. The song is just there.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing bad. It's definitely nothing great. It's another song that I felt like Kix probably ripped off on the Blow My Fuse album, and I never realized that connection until I just kept listening to the Cinderella album over and over again. The only things I think Kix rewrote the songs better than Cinderella did. This song to me, if I never hear it again, I'm okay with that. It's not bad. It's Night Songs is worse. I went with a 5 on this also, just very there, very average.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Next up, the third single, the final single of the album, Somebody Save Me. I'll start off this time. Nobody needs to save me when I listen to this song. I think this song is friggin' great. I still think it's great. To me, this is probably, I'll say, the best rock song on the album, if you will. Um, I'm not going to give it a higher rating than, oh, maybe I will give it a higher rating than Nobody's Fool. It might be to me the best song on the album. And now that I think about it, it really like when I saw Tom in concert 5, 6 years ago, I still got thoroughly thrilled when he did this song. There's something about this is just catchy. I love the hook. Um, yeah, I'm going to go with an 8.6 on this. Just zero point 0.1 higher than Nobody's Fool. This is my favorite song on the album.
All right, that's interesting. Great song. As a matter of fact, one of my bands, somebody suggested and is insisting on doing this song. I'm like, but who knows it?
Well,
Other
that's what
than
I'm thinking.
us,
Yeah.
us heavy metal fans. But that's an argument for another day.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I would agree
always,
with you. If you're playing a bar or something like that, who's going to remember Somebody Saves Me? No offense.
yeah, Joe, watch this. Oh, did I say his name? I didn't say last name. Anyways,
Shake Me.
I,
Okay, Nobody's Fool. Yeah, I think people will
mm,
remember those. Somebody Save Me. As much as I say it's the best song on the album, being objective, it's not
yeah,
the most memorable song on the album.
right. Um, this is one of those songs where I love the verses.
Hmm.
You know, I love the pre-chorus. The chorus is what brings it down a notch for me. The chorus is what makes me give this a 6.9 as opposed to a 7.5 and Shake Me, because I just think Shake Me is just a much better chorus. Shake Me is in the kind of same vibe as this. It's got the same kind of tempo and feel. I just could not, as much as I love this song, I'm
Mhm.
being honest, but if I'm looking at how I'm ranging the scores of
Sure.
a Shake Me, again, 6.9, 7.5, I couldn't give it that 7 because the chorus just, to me, I'm not gonna say it's boring because it's not. It's not as good. Like Shake Me's just got such a better chorus to me.
And I
That's my
like this
feel.
chorus better than Shake Me, so that's
Yes.
funny.
So yeah,
Okay, so what'd you give it?
a 6.9.
6.9. Just away from your upper echelon.
Yes.
Okay, I'll let that slide. In from the outside. Go ahead, my friend.
Now we're gonna start the same cinnamon sandpipe of the other record. Yeah. This is again not a horrible chorus. Just another song that's just kind of there for me.
Mhm.
And this is where I'm starting to get surprised at the record. To your point, I'm like, did I start over, rating this, my feel for this record? But I'll get to that. I
Mhm.
gave this a 5.1.
Okay. All right. Yeah, to me this song was interesting. It had like an Aerosmith feel, like a 70s Aerosmith type feel to it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the ending of the song. Like it ends on like that guitar solo.
Yeah.
If you take that part of the song out, I might say that this is a below average song,
Mm.
right? I
Mm-hmm.
just really like the ending of this song, that whole guitar solo part, the musical part at the end. I like it a lot. But I agree with you. The song is kind of just it's okay. It's better than Hell on Wheels, I felt like, and maybe it's just because of that guitar solo ending that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with a 5.3 on this. Better than Hell on Wheels, better than Night Songs, but not a great song.
Is this one of the records I was listening to recently that he goes, "I'm back" on one of the songs? Or am I thinking of another artist or something?
Are you talking about Aerosmith?
No, there was a. It might have been something else I was listening to, but
Okay.
there's. I know I'm
No,
back in the
unless
saddle
unless
again.
you're thinking of Back Home Again, the last song on this album. I'm back home
Right.
again.
When he goes,
Right,
I'm back. And
right.
I want to go in the saddle
I've never
again.
made that connection
Yeah,
before. Interesting.
it's like kind of just that thing. It was this
Interesting.
record. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Nice
Interesting. Yes.
Aerosmith fest.
And this song
Aerosmith.
to me had a very
Yeah.
big Aerosmith feel
The
to
one
it.
thing about, except for night songs, the riffs on this record, the feels of the tunes, it just, kind of gets to a point where, sometimes, it just, the choruses just lose it for me.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, go ahead. What's next?
All
Or do
righty.
we have, yeah.
Next up, Push Push. I'll go
Yes.
first. Yeah. One word comes to mind. Cheap.
Cheap, cheap.
Cheap. I don't like this song. This is my least favorite song on the album.
Hmm.
Remarkably, when I saw Cinderella in 1991 in concert, they were still doing this song from this album. They were doing the three singles and this song. Why this song? I do not know.
Hmm.
It was the B side of one of the singles. I don't remember which one for obvious reasons. To me, it is not a good song. It's so cliche. The music, there's nothing here that I listen to and I say this is good. This is a bad Gene Simmons type song to me in the
Wow.
80s. Just 3.5. Cheap, cheap,
Mm,
cheap, cheap.
mm. Okay. Yeah, I don't feel that drastic about it. I don't think
Hmm.
there's any bad Gene Simmons songs on this record. Again, I don't rate it any higher or lower than In From the Outside. I gave this a 5.1. Just another song that's
Hmm.
eh, average.
Yeah,
Yeah. To
yeah.
me, and I won't only have one more song, and I won't make my comment, but I will. It's not really a bad song for me on the record,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I'll give my closing comments at the end. To me, obviously, with a 3.5 on the album, there is a bad song, and even
Yeah.
Night Songs, I gave a 4. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
couple of clunkers on this record to me, but let's talk the last song before we talk about the album as a whole.
I'm back. Yeah.
I'll never hear this song the same again now. So
I was like, wait a sec, how did I never notice this
that's
one?
right.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and I didn't either. You asked
Yeah.
earlier what was the one song they didn't do when we saw him open up for David Lee Roth. Back Home Again was the one song.
Maybe Steven Tyler told him, ding.
Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? I have to go through and look. Did they ever perform the song live? I don't know.
Mm.
It's it's an okay song to me. It's nothing spectacular. It kind of sums up what we've said about a handful of songs on this record. It's it's okay. I'm gonna go with a 5 on this. It's just it's okay.
Yeah. Um, I feel the same exact way. It's an okay song. I gave it the same exact rating. I gave it a
Mhm.
5, an average, song.
Yeah.
Um,
So to me, it's funny because we started off talking about the fact that it sold 3 million copies. And I know a lot of people, even still, almost 40 years later, hold this album in high regard. But as I kept playing it over and over again, I was like, this album has not stood up as well as some of the other albums from the 80s I love. If I
mm-hmm,
was putting on, let's just say, Whitesnake 87, that album stands up.
mm-hmm,
Hell, even if I put on the first Poison album for what that album was and represents, that album stands up. I personally think Cinderella has stronger material on their follow-up album than on this. This album to me has a couple of really good high points, the singles basically, and a couple of low points and a bunch of just average songs. Not bad. They're not bad,
mm-hmm,
but there's a lot of just average material on this album, which kind of surprised me because if you would have asked me before when we put this poll up, if you would have asked me what I think of Night Songs, the album, I was, oh, it's a great album. But
mm-hmm.
when I really dug into it and looked song by song, I'm like, nah, I think Long Cold Winter, I think song for song probably is better than Cinderella Night Songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was, like we always say, thoroughly thrilled. I was thoroughly, not to say thoroughly disappointed, but I was a bit disappointed in you know, romancing back this record,
Yeah.
But what I did realize, and I thought from even back then, is do I have it here? Do their follow up record, Long Cold Winter, to me is a better record.
Yes.
I
All right, just
mean,
read off some of the titles on that.
Gypsy Road, Don't Know Which Got Till It's Gone, The Last Mile.
3 great songs right there.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Coming Home is on
Coming
that, right?
Home, I love that.
Me
Great,
too.
just got chills. This is a
Yes.
the vibe of this record. I want to listen to this. I mean, and I just love that.
That's exactly what. So listening to Night Songs
Yeah,
made me want to listen to Long Cold Winter
and
instead.
I mean, just this,
Hmm.
and then to do this for the next record
Yeah.
on the ballsy, and this
Yeah.
back cover with them in the snow. It's just such a great vibe.
Yes.
And what a great follow up record.
Agreed.
And Heartbreak Station that followed after this. I had the cassette of that.
Hmm.
I listened to that cassette a zillion times. What's the no, what's the song? She took the Heartbreak Station. This is
Hmm.
the last train.
Last
I
Train,
love.
Anaheim.
Yeah. I thought that was a great song. It had just
Yeah.
some great songs. I think Tom Kiefer is a great songwriter.
Well,
But
we said this at the top, they went a little bit down that blues road. And I think Tom really did a great pivot, I'm going to say,
mm,
from being just, I'll say, a little bit of a generic 80s hair band to
mm,
carving out his own little niche and,
mm,
did that really well. I think without those two follow-up albums, we don't necessarily talk about Night songs as much as we do today. Just my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm very surprised because I expected you to come in on this episode and blow my ratings out of the water.
Well, when you listen to these songs, did you really think like In From the Outside and Push Push and Back Home Again? I was really going to rate those songs that high?
I just knew that you always loved Cinderella, so I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if there would be a little bit of that romanticizing about,
No,
being a kid in '86 listening to the
it
record.
really wasn't this record that made me love Cinderella. I
Yeah,
like Cinderella, this record. When they came with the second record, I was like, now this is, it got a bit bluesier, definitely less hair metal,
yeah.
you know, oh, the first song, no, no, oh no, that was on, was it, Shelter? What was that? Was that
Oh
on
yeah,
Heartbreak
we all
Station?
need a
We
little
all,
shelter. Yeah,
I love
that's a
that. It's like,
great song. Yes,
oh man, again, chills just thinking about it.
yes.
It's got all the elements that I love. It's got like wow, wow. It's got like
Hmm.
it's like pedal steel guitar. I mean, it to me like a lot of the bands, except when they were forced by grunge, like we got to be heavier now.
Right. Yeah.
What I loved about Cinderella is like, this is not really a blues record. It all has some bluesy elements. When they started doing this and bringing elements of sound, and I remember listening to this even as a kid, saying, they're being very creative. They're doing certain things. You remember like we always like when uh Rise to It, ooh,
Yeah.
Cinderella, ooh.
Yeah.
And then the song starts like this is not a Cinderella song at all.
No,
It's
yeah.
like
Right.
nice tease, you know what
With
I
that
mean?
whole slide guitar intro,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
always thought that was Cinderella
And,
influenced.
and yeah, don't think it wasn't. You know
Of
what I
course,
mean?
of
You
course, yeah.
know, it's so funny that Kiss was creating trends for so many years in the 80s. They were following everybody,
Yes.
it's like trying to catch up. But anyways, um, but yeah, I just yeah, I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy listening to it. It just, I guess maybe I just always thought the album was better without looking tracks. When I saw the titles, like, oof, okay, you know,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go once around the ride, but I don't know if I'm gonna really like it as much.
Uh-huh.
But,
Well, it's funny that we both had the same experience going back and listening to it. And I have a feeling that you and I are going to get crucified by the viewers and listeners because I think a lot of people still hold this album in high
well,
regard. But to me, I think back to the poll I put up there with the five albums: Tooth and Nail, Number of the Beast, Mechanical Resonance, uh, Dirty Rotten Filthy Stinking Rich, and Night Songs. Of those five albums, I think this is probably my least favorite.
yeah,
Now, I might not have said that before I put the poll up there
mm-hmm,
because I
yeah.
also held this album in high regard, but it just listening to it and listening to it as many times as I have in the last 3, 4 weeks since we put this poll up, it hasn't aged that well for me.
Well, it's gonna be, it'll be interesting when we look at the final stats.
Yeah. Yeah. So where's my overall rating on the album and where's yours?
Well, we'll call yours a six. It's 5.99, and we all know that that rounds up to a
Yeah.
six.
Mhm.
And
But
I'm a
not
six.
quite a six. It's 5.99, but go ahead.
Law of averages. That's how Mrs. Benton taught me. I don't know about you.
5.99. Go ahead.
Though meth though and all.
The original though.
Yeah. And mine is a 6.01. So
Wow.
it's
So
basically
you're a point oh 0.01 above six, and I'm a point oh 0.01 below six.
right, which together
It's a
together
six.
yeah, 0.02 difference,
Mhm.
which it's one half dozen of the other, as
Of
I like to
course.
call it.
Of course.
So we basically rate, even though our ratings were kind of different on different songs, we basically rated it the same
We
way.
land in the same spot, right? Which is
Yeah.
interesting. And I guess that's not surprising based on what we're saying about the record. Now, how do those ratings compare to some of the other albums that
Well,
we've
you
rated?
still rank this one higher than Creatures of the Night. That's what I was gonna say.
Really?
Yeah,
Was my overall on Creatures of the Night?
5.97. Now it's very close. This is
5.97.
5.99.
Yeah.
And The Elder, and we always beat up on Psycho Circus.
Mhm. Now, so you see, for me, and I don't have the Creatures of the Night ratings in front of me, but I know I'm not a huge fan of Rock and Roll Hell.
mhm.
Um, I'm gonna guess Keep Me Coming,
Let's see.
Danger, like those three songs. And there's only 9 songs on the album, so that's also one clunker like Rock and Roll Hell could bring down the ratings significantly. But that's interesting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and revisit my rankings on Creatures of the Night.
yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
And for
you're gonna.
yourself?
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna wind up killing me on this one when I tell you what I'm about to reveal.
What's that? What's that?
Oh shit!
Let's
I
hear
just
this.
realized I just opened the spreadsheet and realized I did the math wrong when I did it.
Which one? The Creatures of the Night?
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
what?
your scores, you're gonna have to go back. I'm gonna have to, you're gonna have to look at these things.
Uh-huh.
God damn! There's 9 songs on Creatures of the Night, right?
You divided by 10.
Yeah. So your actual score is 6.6333.
Okay, because I'm like, how the hell did I end up with a 5? I mean, that's
So now the Alice Cooper that we talked about, wrong information.
clearly going forward. You must send your spreadsheets to me, and I
Well,
must audit check them.
that's fair. But as I've done them since that time, I always check it, double check, triple check. Now I got to see if there's any more gems. And mine is a 6.88. So we originally had, just for shits and giggles here, I had me at a 6.2 and you were at a 5.9. And now I'm a 6.889, which is basically 6.9 and a 6.6.
All right. So I think what you need to do is send me your entire worksheet, not just the scores, the entire, and then I have to audit this.
I thought I did send you the entire scores.
You
I
need to
sent you the
send it
entire
to me again
spreadsheets.
with the latest ones in
Well,
them.
I'm gonna
Because on
open
the
up.
Alice Cooper episode, you said I like the Alice Cooper album better than Creatures of the Night. And I
I
even
know.
asked you, I said,
I
did you
know.
check the math? And you said, I'm a little offended.
I am, and I am in right now again. Let's see. Lick it up.
So for my viewers while he's doing this, my apologies. This is absolutely unacceptable and egregious and will be taken care of in the appropriate manner. So just everybody knows.
I just found another one.
Oh, man.
Oh, actually, no, because this worked out because lick it up. All right, let me see. Divided by 10. Oh, yeah.
This is just totally unacceptable. So what is our proper score for the Cinderella album?
Oh, no, wait. No, Lick It Up is right. All right, Lick It Up was right. Okay, the math is right. All right.
Anybody who's thinking of a holiday gift for Vincent, a calculator would be appropriate, okay?
or an Excel course.
Or an Excel course, yes.
Yeah.
So Lick It Up was correct. It's probably only the albums that had 9 songs on it that you forgot to change it from divide by 10 to divide by 9. That's my guess.
Yeah.
So what is the Cinderella score once and for all?
The Cinderella score?
Yes, for you.
6.01.
So that's correct, right?
Yes. No,
Okay.
as I've said, since that original mistake, I didn't go back and check the other. I didn't do an audit like you said on my spreadsheet. But it's 601 and you're 5.99.
And how does your rating compare to? So obviously, Creatures was rated higher than this. That makes sense. How does that compare to like The Elder and Psycho Circus?
Well, that's what I'm opening now, just to make sure I had that math right too.
Okay.
So
and what about for you? Because this is where I thought you were going at first. Do you have the ratings for the Blow My Fuse album in front of you for kicks?
Yeah. So Psycho Circus, how we rated those records is still looks to be correct. I had a 4.86 on that. You had a 5.02. What was the other one you said?
I just said The Elder and Blow My Fuse.
Okay, The Elder. Let's see. The 10 songs on that?
Yeah, because we didn't count Fanfare as a real song.
Right. So the math was right on that. 5.91 for me, 5.49 for you.
Okay. So you're right around the same rating as The Elder. And I'm curious, Blow My Fuse.
Blow your fuse. Blow My Fuse. 10 songs on that record?
Yes.
5.47, 7.24 for you.
Right. So I knew that I'd like the Kicks album far more than this. I wasn't sure how your Cinderella versus Kicks was going to play out, and the Cinderella gets the nod by about a half a point for you.
Yeah.
Which I would challenge that there's absolutely no pushes on the Kicks album, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Well, this is interesting to me. I'm glad that the viewers and the readers on my page chose this album because it really forced me to go back and listen to it. I'm going to challenge the fact that 40% of the people chose this album, like I said at top, tells me that there's still a big love for this album out there. And I'm going to challenge people, go back and listen. Tell us where we're wrong, right? Tell us why songs like Hell on Wheels, In From the Outside, Back Home Again. Why are we wrong that those are just average songs, right? Or do you agree with us? Maybe people are going to go back and listen and say, yeah, they're only thinking the high points, right? Because the high points are really good. Shake Me, Nobody's Fool, those are damn good songs. But we're not talking about a song or two. We're talking about an album as a whole. I challenge people to go back and listen to it and let us know if they agree or not. Anything else on this one, Bloody?
I don't think so.
All righty. Well, I think the next one up, we're going to have maybe another guest come on soon and pick an album with us. I think we're going to go and do another Kiss or Kiss related album soon. So we got definitely a few more in the hopper. So keep an eye out for it. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. Do you like Night Songs better than Long Cold Winter? What do you think of the songs on this album? Has the album stood the test of time? What do you think of Vinny's math skills? I'd like to know about that also. And I guess that's about it for this episode. On that note, I'll do nothing too difficult for Vincent because he might get it wrong. Double Ringo.
A little bit.
That's all I got to do. Till next time, everybody. Later.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. Our thoughts and our opinions on the Cinderella album, Night Songs. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with us that perhaps this album didn't age as well as some of the other Cinderella albums? Or have we gone crazy and we're off our rocker? As always, all opinions are welcome and there's no right or wrong answer. We look forward to reading and seeing your comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.